Date is June 20th, 2019. This is a quick operations video of the Flores trailer. In this video, I'm going to show you how to operate your system and how everything works. We're going to go over pretty much everything from top to bottom, front to back. Actually, not the back. There's not really much back there. This video will also have another video where I do a walkthrough of the system. I go through all the components of the system, tell you exactly what they are and how they work. But for now, we're just actually going to show you how to use it and go over exactly everything you're going to need to know. Real simple. So if you're operating the system under normal conditions, this valve will be open. That is the outlet valve from the tank. Comes through the black hose here, out of the black hose into this three-way valve. This handle will be in the upright position. That means it's pulling water from this side. If this is in the horizontal position, it means it's pulling water from the holding tank right here. You will only use this holding tank if you need to winterize the system. Any other time, you're going to be pulling from this bad boy here. For whatever reason, you need to bypass your water tanks and hook up directly with a water hose. Just hook right into here. You will close your bypass valve there. Real simple how this works. You pull water from the tank, comes in the hose, goes into the pump, comes out of the pump, comes into the unloader, out of the unloader, through the heating coil here, comes out of the other side through this blue jumper hose and goes back to your hose reels back there. Comes out of the hose reels right there, quick disconnects. You have your guns where you hook up into your hose. There's a bypass here. Under normal operation, or how these come from the factory, whenever you let off the trigger, that pressurized water has to go someplace, otherwise it will deadhead the pump. It goes into what is called bypass mode. The high pressure water comes in here normally and it goes through this way. When you're in bypass, as soon as that trigger closes, that water takes a little loop up here. That pressurized water pushes a spring down, comes in through the bypass here, avoids the deadhead. Normally you would just have a hose like this black hose here hooked up going back into the low pressure side of the pump. We take this one step further. We add a valve and an extra hose back on here to come back into your feed tanks. What happens when you let off that trigger? That water is just stuck in a loop there. So it actually causes the water to heat up. If there's no way to dissipate that heat, it can damage the head of the pump. If it reaches over 145 degrees, it can damage the seals in there. There's a pump protector on here. This is designed to prevent that. This will, if it reaches that temperature, it will open up, it will spit water out of here. It will cause the machine to cool down by bleeding off that excess hot water. Again, we're trying to prevent that. So what we have here is this bypass valve here that we have running back to the tank. You have 400 gallons of water, but within these two tanks, it acts as just a very large heat sink and soaks up any heat that might have been in the system, preventing any damage from occurring in the first place. Now, you will see this leaking as time goes on. There's some spring steel in here and it wears out, it rusts. This is a wear item. If you notice this starting to leak, go ahead and get this replaced. You can operate this without this in place. You can just put a plug in here if you're in a pinch and you need to get by, you need to finish the job, you can go ahead and put a plug in there. And then once you get back to the shop or whatever, go ahead and put you a new pump protector, new thermal relief valve in here, get you back rocking again. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to show you how to prime. First thing you want to do, obviously, when you get the system, read your owner's manual. Everything you need to know will be in there. We also provide a little cheat sheet here. It tells you how to start up, how to shut down, pump priming, and winterizing. Now, when these first come to us, make sure your valve here is closed. Close your bypass valve also for priming. When these first come to us, they're obviously empty, straight from the manufacturer. The manufacturer tests them at the manufacturing facility, drains everything, puts it on a truck, comes to us. You have to prime the system. There is air in the system as it sits now. If you just fill the tank up, open that valve up, you have an airlock in the system. It's not enough to gravity feed the water through and burp all the air. So we are going to prime the system. We are going to evacuate any air that may be in here. So again, first thing you want to do, make sure that valve is closed. Otherwise, when we pull this hose off, water's going to come out of here. Make sure your bypasses valve is closed. Also, we don't want any water returning back into that tank. So you notice here we have a garden hose fitting. We're just going to loosen this up and we can pull this hose off. And then you're going to hook a garden hose in here or any other kind of pressurized water source you have. Just as long as you got something that's pressurized that can push the water through. That'll come out. Make sure you got that tank valve off, otherwise you're going to leak a bunch of water out of here. Grab your hose and you can plug your hose right in. You'll notice there is a mesh screen there, just a little washer type screen. You can pick these up at the hardware store. Make sure you check this often. Chances are you're not going to get any stuff in there. We have a screen on the outlet there. We have another screen on the inlet. So we're doing triple filtering, but stuff happens and stuff makes its way through. So just check that. If you're ever losing water pressure, check all your filters. So we're going to hook in here first. This is hooked up. Make sure this is in the upright position. Again, tank's closed, bypass valve's closed. Grab your hoses, pull your hoses out to where you can see them, and you're simply going to turn this on. You see here we got water coming out here. We got a nice steady stream. When you first do this, you will have some kind of nasty looking water. It's okay, it's just normal. As water sits in the system, dirt and contaminants build up in the water. You're flushing all that stuff out. Any air that may be trapped in the system, you're going to flush this out too. These can burp at sometimes. We got a nice steady stream of water here, so we know we're primed. We can go ahead and shut the water off, pull the hose off. Helps to have a rag here too, because you're going to leak some water. Just the nature of the beast. You can set your hose aside. I'm going to grab one of my rags here. Hook my feed hose back up from the water tanks. Got that all seated. Let that sit there and soak up some more water. Okay, now we're ready to go. So we got to make sure we open up our tank valve so that the water can flow from here to the machine. Open up your bypass valve so water can flow from the bypass back into the tank. You're gonna grab your guns over here. You're gonna plug these in. Now these are operating in single operator mode, so I have the proper tips in there. You will also set up for dual operation mode. I will go over that in the walkthrough video, just to make sure that you have the proper tips in there for whatever job you're doing. So we're gonna go ahead and start this thing, and we're gonna run it through its paces. Go ahead and pull your, obviously make sure you have fuel, gasoline for the engine, diesel for the burner. Pull your choke out, go ahead and start it. Once it gets started, push your choke right in. So we may have a little bit of air in here you'll have to burp out, obviously. It's a variable pressure wand. You open this up. Water comes out the detergent hole also. Gets down to about 500 psi. If you're running chemical through the system, on the front of the system, now chemical will start to flow. If you have a downstream injector, this will also start the process for that. When you're ready to come back up to pressure, turn this all the way back. Ready to rock and roll. We're going to go ahead and turn the heat on. burner switch, set your heat. We're gonna set it at 160 here. And we're gonna rock and roll with some heat. I don't know if you can hear it on camera. When you let off the trigger, the heat stops. When you pull the trigger, your burner starts in again. You do not want this machine burning without any water flowing through the system. There's a pressure switch on there which controls that. Several seconds here, you'll feel some heat. I'm getting warm right now. If it was winter time, you could actually see the hot water. You can see it a little bit. It doesn't show up on camera too well. Let off the trigger, my heat stops. When you're done with the heat, come over here, turn the burner switch off. And you're gonna wanna run cold water through the system. Pull all that heat out of the coil so it doesn't soak it. Boil off. Once you can wrap your hand around here comfortably, you know it's cool enough. It takes a minute or two. Cool. Now you can go ahead and shut your system down. This has a pressure trapping unloader here. Anytime you shut the machine down, you will have to relieve the pressure before you can remove your gun and wand. So that's it for your basic operation. I'm gonna go back up to the machine for a second. Go over some of the controls with you real quick. Here we have your choke, your ignition key. This is your thermostat. This is for the auxiliary. There is a 120 volt ground fault current interrupt receptacle on the back side of this. If you need to run an extension cord while you're using the machine, charge your phone or something like that, you have 120 volts on the back of this thing that you can go ahead and plug right in there. That's on. This is off. Real simple. Circuit breaker for the system. Generator runs through this circuit breaker. If for whatever reason you don't have power here, first thing you want to do is check your reset button. You have your burner switch here. You saw we turn this on, the burner comes on, turn it off, it goes off. We have the steam switch here, which I'm going to go over with you in a few seconds here. On, off, real simple stuff. Detergent valve here if you want to run chemical through the system. Stick this down in your bucket. Go ahead and open this valve up. You're going to be running the system, obviously. You will have your gun and wand right there. Open up the variable pressure part. Like I said, wait till it gets down to about 500 psi. You will see this start to siphon chemical through here. If you want, which I do not suggest, you can actually start to back the pressure up, bring it back up, and you can apply chemical under high pressure. Should be no need for that. You're just gonna blow chemical all over the place. Essentially, you're wasting chemical. As soon as you're done with this, go ahead and shut this off. If you leave this open, this can and will suck air in through here. It will cause a pulsating effect, cause you to lose pressure. When you get the machine, you'll have nozzles here. I have them out right now for testing. Steam nozzle over here we are using on the steam gun. That's pretty much it. Real simple. You have a Honda engine, 2-cylinder Honda engine. There's a low oil circuit on here. Make sure you check this before every job. Make sure your oil level is where it needs to be. If the machine runs low on oil while it's operating, it will shut down. It will not restart. If it runs low on oil for some reason that didn't trip the circuit, the next time you go to use the machine, it may be low enough to the point where it won't read, it will not start. So if you have a no start problem or a suddenly dying problem, your fuel's good, make sure you come back here and check your oil. You'll see you have some controls here on the side. These are factory controls. All the engines are shipped with these. They do not work, so don't bother messing with anything. Everything is controlled through the ignition switch up here, which runs through the ignition box down here. You have an hour meter on here though. This actually does work. Seems to read a little bit off from the rest of the system, but it's there nonetheless. So right now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna hook the steam up, and I'm gonna show you how that works. So when you're doing steam, I suggest you come in here, shut these valves, your bypass and your feed valve. You're gonna go ahead and you're going to make sure